So the first thing I like to do when I'm trying to figure out the right shape for my client is I like to just analyze their face, their bone structure. I want to look at which eye is higher, which eyebrow is higher. If there's a difference in eyebrow shape, which you can kind of see here, one is a little more angular and one has a flatter arch, or it's not as arched. So I'm taking note of all of the asymmetrical features. In this case, you'll see the left side of the face, it appears to be rounder than the right side, which seems to be a little more angular. I also noticed that the left eye seems a little higher than the right eye, and that the left eyebrow doesn't come in as far to the center of the face. Now I want to split the face in half. I want to make sure I'm splitting the face all the way down the center, starting at the top of the forehead all the way down to the chin, or vice versa. Finding the perfect eyebrow shape is a little bit of trial and error. So what I like to do is sometimes draw in the shape lightly with a brow pencil. That way I can see how those gaps are going to be filled in and what I need to do in order for those eyebrows to look symmetrical. Now, in some cases, we need to break those eyebrow rules, that 5-point technique, where it states that the body lines of the eyebrow need to be parallel. I do, however, want to ensure that the body is 2/3 and that the tail is 1/3, and that this is symmetrical on both sides. So I'll check my measurements by measuring point A and B, the distance between point B and C, and then the distance between A and C. Now, to find the shape, we need to find our vertical lines. This is going to create the length of the eyebrow. So I want to measure from the tip of the nostril, not the outside of the nostril. That can actually cause that vertical line to be measured too far in towards the arch when we want it closer to the center of the face. Now here we have the vertical lines, A, B, and C. And what you find is that the right eyebrow has more hair in the front than the left eyebrow. So we're gonna have to fill that in with microblading strokes. The upper arch on the right side is actually pretty visible. You can see where that bone kind of curves over, and it's defined pretty nicely by the natural arch in her hair. You can see that the upper arch lays perfectly in between the outside of the iris and the end of the white part. Now I'm looking at her natural curves of her bone structure just to get an idea of what her eyebrow shape is going to look like. I'm also looking at the empty spaces so I can determine what that eyebrow shape is going to look like once I perform that microblading or PMU procedure. And because of the consultation I had with my client, I know that she does want her brows to be a little thicker. So that means the body of those eyebrows are going to need to be filled in a little more. So right now I am finding my horizontal lines. This is where I'm focusing on improving the symmetry, but without forcing the eyebrows to go too much in one direction. So how I do that is I draw a horizontal line through the eyes. So if you see, they're through the pupils of the eyes. This helps with symmetry because most people would take that point 1 and start right at the baseline of the natural hair growth and try to force the brows to be symmetrical based off what is parallel to the ground. But it's also important to ask your client which eyebrow is their favorite. That way you can duplicate the shape of that brow and try to make the opposite brow look similar. When I go to do my horizontal lines, I'm making my point 1 horizontal line and I'm trying to get that right at the baseline or the base of their brow bone to the point where it's hugging their hairline, assuming they have hair. Just because a client doesn't have hair doesn't mean you can't find that brow bone or the bottom of the brow bone. You're just going to use your fingers to feel the bones and the movement of them. So right here, the top line, this is creating the thickness of our eyebrows. So what I like to do is I like to work with the thickest part of the front of the eyebrows. So in this case, the thickest part would be that left side. So we're basing our thickness off of that and matching it on the right side, as well as filling in that sparse area in the front on the left side. Point 1 and 2 gave me the thickness of my eyebrow, but now I need to find point 3 and 4. And as you can see, the eyebrows get very sparse here. This is where you have to make the decision using parallel body lines to create that thick eyebrow, and it's that even thickness all the way through. But then there's going to be that big negative space in the middle. That's where there's no hair. And what's hard about that is there is a good amount of hair in the front, and so the worry is that it may not blend perfectly. But that's okay. What you can do is you can actually use your brow mapping string to measure from the left side to the right side, hugging that baseline. So hugging right underneath that natural hairline to create your point 4. It will mean that the distance between point 3 and 4 is much smaller than the distance between point 1 and 2, and that's okay. It just tapers, but it will look more natural and flow with her hair better. The direction of the tail should follow that same flow of the brow bone. As you can see, that purple line shows the natural slant or bone structure movement of the client's face. So we're going to use this as our direction of the tail, or our point 5. And we're going to carry it through point 3 all the way up to point 0. Now this angle we're creating right now is going to help with perfect symmetry. So now to find the direction of point 5 on the other side, we go from point 0, and we have to be very careful to make sure that straight line goes through that point 3. So your point 3 needs to be perfect. Once you've done that, then you have the direction of your tail for both brows. Now you can connect all those dots. You're going to connect 1 to 4. Make sure to hug that hairline. You're going to connect 2 to 3. And then you're going to want to soften that upper arch. Make sure it's a clean line. If you need to go back and erase, that's perfectly fine. And this is what the final result looks like. So if you see, we were able to fill in that lower arch. The symmetry looks a lot better. And even though she didn't have much hair in the front on the left eyebrow, the strokes helped to fill it in. And after a touch-up, it'll probably look even better. So perfectly symmetrical brows on an asymmetrical face, and they look lovely. The position of the tail can affect the entire shape of the eyebrow. So see here with the client's natural makeup, how the tail on the left side is going below point 1. This gives the client a saggy or droopy look. What makes finding the position of the tail so difficult is the fact that the client's face and the client's bone structure has asymmetry as well. I like to ask my client which eyebrow is their favorite. That way I can work off of that natural bone structure and have the other opposite brow duplicate that one. You don't have to be professional at determining your client's face shape, but what you can see in this image is that one eyebrow shape looks better than the other. The eyebrow with the higher arch is more flattering on this client because of her face shape. And earlier I talked about the slant of the face. So if you see those pink arrows, the one on the left is showing you the correct direction her bones are moving. So that slant in her bone structure is moving in that direction, which is why this higher arch looks better than the lower arch. Now on this client, you can see her bone structure is very prominent. So it's easy to see where the direction of that tail is going to go.